Quiet on set. Quiet on set. I think anybody who grew up in the 90s, if you were born in the 80s and had your childhood all through the 90s and early 2000s, Quiet on Set gave you their... You know, I think there's a reason why Drake Bell and Amanda Bynes were so close, like they said on the show Quiet on Set. And it seems that they both suffered similar traumas. Both allegedly had parents that just didn't care for them in the way they deserved, and had people, other adults in their lives that was too much in their lives, taking advantage of them. And let's start with Amanda Bynes. Now, Amanda Bynes, I know a lot of people are talking about this tweet about her getting a procedure done so she won't have a kid, right? The only thing about that was from an account, because I remember this from back in the day, because I used to follow Amanda Bynes on Twitter. And if I remember correctly, her Twitter was deactivated because she was kind of going crazy saying a lot of things. So she made another Twitter, a legendary Twitter, that she came out and said that wasn't her when she got her original Twitter back. Now on that old Twitter, that's where it came out saying that she was had that stuff done to her and how she had to get that procedure done at 13 so she wouldn't have a kid by her boss. Now at that time, I didn't know who Dan Schneider was. I had no idea. I never connected the dots to that man, to Amanda Bynes. I had no idea that he was the one that discovered her when she was 9 and tried to follow her outside Nickelodeon until she made that show, What I Want About You. He pretty much, it seemed like he made that his obsession and then eventually his quote unquote woman or his side piece or his main piece pretending to be the side piece that nobody really knew about. Or maybe people did, I just didn't pay attention to it. And all the stuff that came out with Amanda and how she had all those rampant tweets and all the alleged drug problems she did and the promiscuity and the outlandish stuff she was saying about Obama and Drake, how she wanted Drake to, to her female parts. It was just, we just thought, okay, another child star having a breakdown. Hollywood must sucks. And now that you see Quiet on Set, I really wish they would have got Amanda on there. And let's talk about Amanda for a second. Now, occasionally I do see her pop up on my TikTok feeds or on my Instagram feeds showing that how she's showing out the nails she's doing, and now she's trying to get her certification. Last time I saw, I think eventually she's going to try to open her own salon. And that's good that she's finding another path to take care of herself and still being ambitious, but in a way it's kind of sad because she has so much talent. I remember watching all that. I remember watching Amanda. So I remember watching the Things I Like About You and some of the other movies that she was in. So for a young woman, well, she ain't young no more, but for a woman to be that talented, just to say forget it all, the Hollywood life must have really scarred her to a point that she must put her focus somewhere else, her creativity and something else that she can completely control herself, that she don't have to answer to nobody else about. And that's regrettable. Now, I remember on the show, Quiet on Set, they were saying how Drake and Amanda were very close and all this other kind of stuff. And the reason being is, I think, I'm just me speculating, I think they may have been close enough to see that there was something going on with each other with other adults. Because it's just, I won't say it's interesting, but a lot of times trauma can attract trauma and you'll find comfort in that. So from what it seemed like on that show, Drake Bell, what happened to him happened before Drake and Josh came out. And I'm glad what the documentary showed was that the people who was in support of, I think his name was Brian. I'm really glad they actually put the names on there. And some of the people that wrote letters to the judge to try to give him a lighter sentence, I'm very surprised about. And speaking of which, this to play devil's advocate. I'm kind of curious. If they didn't know what was said or what was done to Drake, then what was they told so they could write these letters? I'm just very curious about that. Like some of the people like Alan Thicke, Sean from Boy Meets World. Now Eric, I'm not surprised about all. Eric seems like a jerk in real life. But Sean? I was just like, man, that's crazy. It really makes you look at other people so much differently. And that's why I wish that all these people who are exposing all these higher executive and people who are in these secret meetings and rooms, they would say the names of the people so we would actually know who it is that we should be looking at with disgust. This, for example, I remember Corey. Is it Corey Felton? Corey, he was at one point saying there are a lot of people doing all kinds of nasty stuff in this industry. But he never really said any major names. And if he would have said some major names and put it out there, it may have saved somebody else. Because I'm not going to lie. I have a daughter. She's a teenager now, and she has a couple of years before she goes out to college. But when she was a little kid, she wants to be an actress. And there was all kinds of casting calls and all this other kind of stuff I could have taken her to, and I thought about it. But I saw stuff when I saw like Corey and things like that, and things that he were talking about. And then you see the Michael Jackson trials, and then you see all this stuff. And you're just kind of like, I don't think I want my daughter in that world. You know, I mean, and granted, she is brilliant, a straight A student, very beautiful young woman. And I know she would have at least got one show. But the idea of somebody taking advantage of my daughter, like somebody did Drake, I couldn't imagine it. And the father needs more credit. I mean, he was there for his son from day one, helped him get to these auditions and bookings, and he got phased out by a third party. And you know what's really sucks is a lot of the times when people get divorced and the family splits up, they normally think you want to split away from the kid, but the father didn't want to do that. But again, it's speculating, but a lot of times when you see divorces and you see in the mother, so that's my son, I'm going to take care of this. The courts give her custody. She has final say. So the father kind of got it back down a lot of the time. And you see how hurt he was that somebody got to his son and he was trying so hard to protect. And even Drake's like, you know what? My dad was right. You know, he was manipulated. He was used. His mother was manipulated. And the sad part about it is the mother didn't see a thing. What was she doing to where she couldn't notice her son was being taken advantage of by a grown man? It took his girlfriend's mom to notice and call the cops. His girlfriend's mom, not his mom. His girlfriend's mom. She noticed it right away. Because like she said, what grown man is going to call over and over and over again like an obsessive teenager? Now, with Drake, I remember he got arrested, and there was a lot of misinformation about that. I remember I've even seen some stuff on other YouTuber channels saying that he was a registered offender. That it appears that's not the case, but you know, he even owned up to that. You know, he was writing somebody inappropriately. He was, you know, guilty of that. He didn't make any excuses, right? Which that is respectable. But I can understand why that happened now. Again, I'm not saying that what he did was right. I'll never say that. But I can understand why it happened now. Because it happened to him. It happened to him, and that was just tragic. So what normally ends up happening when something's wrong happens to you, unless you get the proper help and therapy needed, it's going to pass on to somebody else. And it messed up his career. But who knows? Who knows what happened for this? I can say a whole lot about Josh in this situation because I can see why Drake hangs on to that show, Drake and Josh, so much now. It was like his therapy in a way. That was his safe haven from all this bad stuff that happened to him. When he talks about that, he even said it on there, that was his escape. So I understand that. And with Josh being as close as they were, it kind of makes me wonder, did Josh know? And if Josh did know, I know there's a statement coming out saying that, you know, he's reached out to him privately. But you can know something, but truly don't understand the magnitude of it until years later. Or in this case, when it comes out on, I guess, international TV. But that's just my thought process on some of this. It's just, there was so much on there. People could talk about this for days. I originally wasn't going to watch this at all, but I kept seeing it everywhere, and I was like, man, I gotta watch it. I watched it, and now I'm just like, something like this should have came out a lot sooner. A whole lot sooner. And then, DiCaprio. I'll leave it on this. Is DiCaprio gonna make a tell-all book? Because supposedly in the same way that that man was touching Drake, he was touching DiCaprio, and they actually have video footage of that. So it kind of makes me curious, is DiCaprio ever going to come out and not necessarily say that what happened ain't going to happen with Drake, but what he may know and seen, because I'm pretty sure he's seen a lot. Anyways, thank you for watching. You guys have a great day. Thank you.